President Bola Tinubu has accused the global community of complicity in the disturbing rise in illegal mining, illicit financial flow, and terrorism funding in Africa. Tinubu said the international community owed the continent a duty to assist in the fight to eradicate the menace. Tinubu spoke yesterday in Abuja while declaring open a two-day African high-level meeting on counter-terrorism. He emphasized that it was funds from other continents that fueled illegal mining in Africa, which had in turn been funding terrorism. State House correspondent Adesoa Omoran provides updates.
Africa faces a significant security challenge from terrorism and violent extremism, particularly in the Sahel region, where there's been an alarming rise in terror-related fatalities. This summit by Nigeria aims to tackle the threat head-on.
Terrorism in Africa is driven by factors such as foreign terrorist fighters, organized crime, prolonged conflicts, drug trafficking, illicit arms trade, high youth unemployment, porous borders, and inadequate policing.
The National Security Advisor unveils Nigeria's measures to address evolving threats.
Our commitment extends to digital security, with the establishment of the National Cybersecurity Coordination Center to counter the use of our cyberspace by terrorists, but importantly, also adopting the advancement in technologies, with strict adherence to ethics and rights to anticipate and neutralize threats before they manifest. Additionally, I am taking this opportunity to inform the world that we have resumed the prosecution of the Boko Haram and affiliated terrorist suspects detained in Kainji and other locations across the country.
While the UN highlights social exclusions and governance gap needing attention.
Terrorists find a welcome home with deeply disillusioned, excluded, and desperate people. We must formulate responses that address these conditions, and in doing so, we must pay attention to our women and girls who bear the greatest impact of insecurity, often the victims of terrorism, who deserve our solidarity and who have a right to remedy and reparations, and also to our youth and future generations. Second, we need to work to rebuild the social contract across the region. The social contract, a bond between people and the authorities that govern them, has been frayed by decades of underinvestment, crises, and a lack of governance.
We have some regional initiatives, from the African Union mission in Somalia to multinational joint task force in the Lake Chad Basin and the Southern African Development Community mission in Mozambique. These regional arrangements require support and long-term commitment from the international community.
President Bola Tinubu and other leaders stressed the need for tangible outcomes, with the Nigerian president calling for the establishment of a fully operational regional counter-terrorism center and a regional standby force to enhance intelligence sharing and rapid response capabilities.
The time to act is now. The time for concrete actions is now. The time for results is now. The time for speeches is over, even if I am doing one.
While terrorism troubles us greatly at the moment, we do well by remembering terrorism is not of Africa. We must tell this imported evil that wants to bend and break us, that it shall not succeed. Instead of making us bow, we shall banish it.
Let us stand together in solidarity to confront this scourge and build a more secure, stable, and prosperous future for our continent and its citizens.
Arise News caught up with the National Security Advisor. I asked him what sets this summit apart from previous ones and what he aims to achieve by organizing it.
This is a very important event for Nigeria and indeed Africa. We do have over 400 foreigners here, and they're all professionals directly who are involved in the fight against terrorism globally. And we've had very powerful speeches from the UN, from our own presidents, and literally all those who are important. And we believe this is what is needed. And everybody, all are calling for a collaborative effort to come together. We are all in this together. Today, we are beginning to see the end of Boko Haram in Nigeria. And that is a fact. It's not just talk. We've heard what was said. Since the coming of this administration, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we have not witnessed one single terrorist act in Nigeria. Terrorist act, we mean like attack by terrorists. We have had it many in 2022. The attack on our train, our own prison, our gas battalion, our churches in 2022. And throughout 2023 and now, we have not witnessed one.
The UN Deputy Secretary General reiterates the crucial need for adequate resources to combat terrorism effectively.
So my hopes are that when I see the multi-stakeholder attendance here that has been put together by the NSA and our Office of Counter-Terrorism, then I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that they're actually addressing the solutions and they're listening to what the President said, which is enough with the rhetoric, or grammar as we say in Nigeria, and more action on the ground. It has to be followed up by resources. This will not happen on fresh air. And I hope that collectively we can bring the partners in to scale up what they have already been doing, but to talk about that with a sense of urgency.
Stakeholders at the summit are unanimous in their resolve that defeating terrorism in Africa is not a simple task, but rather a complex challenge that requires a comprehensive approach. They are optimistic, however, that through collective action and a commitment to African-led solutions, there can be a significant impact in the fight against terrorism on the continent. From the Office of the National Security Advisor, Nigeria, Adesua Omoruan, Arise News.
Well, thank you, Adesua, for that detailed report, as always. Rufa, your take on this story, particularly one of the parts that came out really strong is the president linking illegal mining to financing of terrorism and, of course, other things that were discussed at that meeting.
At first, correction. With due respect, the NSA and whoever is in the security body should stop touting this argument of there's been no terror attacks since 2023. Please, spare me. The killings that happened in Jos, what were they? In the space of 2-3 days for Christmas period, were they not terror attacks? The kidnapping of people in Kaduna, what were they? Were they not terror attacks? Please spare this narrative twisting, please, for the sake of public sanity. Secondly, yet here we go again with another talk shop. We call people from all around the world and we sit them down and we talk, and nothing changes. I'll have rather the money we are expending to have this talk shop, to book hotels and do things and make people just come and talk. We should fix that money into researching and holding hackathons where we can get Nigerians at least to deploy and be able to manufacture surveillance softwares where we can entirely keep surveillance over the 923,000 square kilometers of land. A lot of Nigerian people out of Yaba and out of all tech Silicon Valleys around Nigeria can do it. Give them this capacity rather than going to import all the technology from other Western nations. I'll have thought that the money will be plowed into DICON to do more research and development as regards drones and gears and things like that. I'll have thought that the action plan should be now looking into the complicity. President Tinubu was talking about foreigners in legal mining. Don't these foreign people have local collaborators? Do they just do it and manufacture these things from the sky? No foreign entity can come into this country without local collaborators. They need on-ground experience, and it's the local collaborators that are helping them. But because these local collaborators are big people, nobody can touch them. We have a lot of gold in Zamfara. Till today, I have not seen gold receipts as part of the line item in our budgets or revenue. Because the local collaborators are part of it. So let's stop blaming the foreign people, because we know we have to kick the baby away with the bathwater and say foreigners. Let's look at the local collaborators. What about the people that were put on the list in UAE as terrorist financers? What has happened to them? Is this not the same government, or probably the last government, that was giving terrorists jollof rice and sewing national beef for them in the name of repentance? And now we are holding talk shop and talking about terrorism. Let's not waste people's time. We know what to do to solve these problems. When we need a foreign collaboration, we can ask for help. I'm not against that. But all these talk shops will not take us anywhere. This year alone, over 2,000 people have died. Or maybe between last year and this year. I don't know what the report, but it was on the front page of a national daily a couple of days ago. Daily Trust. So is it foreign collaborators that are killing people? What about the kidnappings we'll not be able to solve? Is it foreign collaborators? Where we hear a great case of complicity? So one, let's deal with the complicity across forces. Secondly, let's equip our young people. Nigerian young people are talented in the tech space and in the manufacturing space. They can create this technology equipment. Support them. Use them to be, and most importantly, solve the problem of inequality. Because you politicians are also the biggest problem for this inequality in this world. You are living in a society where people have bad roads and you are driving cars of over 100 million naira. Are you okay? You are driving cars of over 100 million naira. People are seeing the big fat salaries you are earning in the Senate.
All right.
And you are saying how did inequality start? That's why everybody wants to do politics now. Every jobless man out there wants to be a politician. Let's fix this country and stop holding talk shops here and there. We're wasting our time.
Okay. I think that we should look at the objectives of the African High-Level Meeting on Counter-Terrorism, which is to promote the idea of collaboration, cooperation among African countries to tackle together the challenges of terrorism and also illegal mining and also illicit international financial transactions. We cannot stop talking about the problem, because if you continue to talk about it, then maybe someday you'll be able to find a solution to it. And Africa, being a major victim, has a responsibility. Its leaders have a responsibility to continue to focus on the subject. So in terms of objectives, I think that this was a very important meeting, attended not just by African leaders, thematically focusing on African interests, and also having in the room international stakeholders from the United Nations. Why is this important? Because it's already recognized that terrorism is a global phenomenon. It's cross-border. And for you to find a solution to it, the solution cannot be localized. There is an international dimension to it. And this was one point that President Tinubu was making in his welcome address, when he said there is a linkage between terrorism and illegal mining and banditry. And of course, look, this is a subject of research, and that connection has been established. Secondly, he said there are international interests involved, and that these international interests, the international community must help to check them. Now, theoretically, the point that President Tinubu was making is simply that beyond the experience of colonialism, there's a new kind of colonialism that is economic resource-based. We said the West pillaged Africa. Today, in 2024, it's not just the West that is pillaging Africa. Even the East is pillaging Africa. So Africa, as a last frontier for development, has become a battleground for its own resources that are relevant to modernization, to the technological drive of the 21st century. And in this regard, I cite specific examples. Look at Nigeria. There have been studies that the Chinese are involved in the illegal mining that we have had in Zamfara State, in the Northwest generally, and also in North Central and parts of the Southwest of Nigeria. These same Chinese, Africa is romancing them under what they call the Road and Belt, initiative. But they have also been fingered in Namibia, where there is a very rich resource of lithium. They have also been fingered in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where, there is a lot of cobalt. Also in South Africa is talking about illegal mining. In Ghana, next door, there's also an issue about illegal mining. It's popularly called in Ghana is called Galamsey. The South Africans at a point had to threaten that they would call in the army. In Nigeria here, at a certain point, the federal government had to ban artisanal and illegal mining in Zamfara. Now, the big concern is that this illegal mining is tied to social conflicts. It is assumed that this international interest, and it's not only the Chinese. After all, we had the blood dam, the conflict diamonds in Sierra Leone, which led to a civil war between 1998 and 2002. So you see that the resources in Africa have always been a source of conflict. So some kind of neo-colonialism, right, in that regard. So thematically, President Tinubu, is right in terms of what he said, what he presented. The second point is that there is collaboration between local politicians, local African leaders pursuing their own selfish interests, and these illegal miners. So the foreign collaboration that President Tinubu talks about, our people are also complicit. Take the Niger Delta, all the illegal crude oil theft that is happening there. It's not just foreigners going there to steal crude oil. Our own people are involved, including traditional rulers, including the people who collect national honors from Nigeria. That's another dimension. Now, President Tinubu made the point that there is a legal framework in place. The Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act. In fact, on that occasion, the federal government also announced the setting up of a national stakeholders working group, 15-man, to monitor Nigeria's extractive transparency initiative and all of that. But there is also the regime of the legal framework. In Nigeria, Section 1, Sub 1 of the Minerals and Mining Act says that only the federal government of Nigeria can control resources. That is, resources below the surface of the earth in any part of Nigeria. So you find that the states themselves are handicapped. So you find this problem whereby even state governments cannot do anything. And yet the federal government is talking about international collaboration. Now, what level of collaboration do we have in Nigeria? However, President Tinubu was right in his speech when he talked about, initiative at the level of the African Union and at the level of ECOWAS to address small arms and light weapons proliferation. In other words, what the president tried to do is to provide a linkage. The question then, arising from all of this, not just in Nigeria, but across Africa, is a point made by Amina Mohammed, Under-Secretary General of the United Nations, that African leaders need to pay attention to the social contract, address issues of poverty, address issues of deprivation, and maybe when this is the case, those foreign interests who are stealing Africa blind, either they are coming to steal cobalt or gold or steal lithium or steal any other resource, whether it's in the Democratic Republic of Congo or in other parts of Africa, would not be able to find local collaborators. So Africa has part of the challenge, and the way forward will include addressing the legal framework, addressing infrastructural issues, looking at issues, basic issues, like visitors' visa and work permit. Many of these foreigners that come here and are engaged in illegal mining, they don't even have proper permits. But our departments of immigration will look the other way. And that is where corruption is relevant as part of the issue. But the linkages that workshop has tried to establish, those linkages are important. And we hope that as President Tinubu ended in his speech, that the workshop will be to find solutions and to design a way forward, because that is where the big challenge lies, and that African leaders will not just talk, they will walk the talk.
All right, so design the way forward and also ensure that this is properly implemented. Let's take some other news making the headlines this morning. Nigeria is working on the details of the proposed dollar-denominated domestic bonds, which is part of overall measures by the federal government to address the foreign exchange crisis, the Debt Management Office has confirmed. In a move that will significantly alter the Nigerian electricity supply industry, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission yesterday in an order kick-started the process of handing over its regulatory oversight power to the Enugu State Electricity Regulatory Commission in compliance with the new Electricity Act of 2023. On the foreign scene, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's flagship Rwanda bill is finally set to become law after months of wrangling ended in a parliamentary showdown shortly before midnight. It designates Rwanda a safe country and is a key part of the government's plans to send some asylum seekers there.